Welcome back to the Print 3D channel and another episode of the Weekend Print. On this episode of the Weekend Print, we get started on the T-Rex project. Welcome back, and thank you for joining me here on the Weekend Print. A long time ago, MakerBot had posted up a couple of dinosaur skulls for people to 3D print. And though I never printed one, I had it on my list of things to print. And then recently, they posted up a fully anatomically correct T-Rex skeleton, and I knew this was something I really wanted to print. But I want to print it big. Since I have a gMax 1.5 XT Plus, we're going to go as big as we can. The filament we are using is Shaxon's PLA in the color of white. If you saw the Plunderbust Pete video, then you know that filament looks really cool. So let's head over to Thingiverse and check out this T-Rex skeleton, decide which pieces we want to print and how big we're going to go, and get it ready for printing on the gMax 1.5 XT Plus. Okay, so here we are at Thingiverse. Here is the T-Rex skeleton. This looks really cool. This is by MakerBot, of course. I'll put the link down in the description so you can download and print this yourself. But let's check out the thing details. All right, we have some dimensions here. We have 19 files totaling 79 pieces, and according to them, it's about 24 hours of print time. Since we're printing ours bigger, we're probably going to have a lot more print time. The dimensions say 601 millimeters. I believe that's from head to tail. So let's go ahead and bring up the calculator and see how big this is going to be when we blow it up. Let's take 601 and multiply that by 2.5, which is 250%. And this gives us 1,500 millimeters of length. This is going to be huge. I can't wait to print this. So let's go ahead and download this thing and start the print. We're going to start with the skull and jaw piece and work our way down the tail. Okay, so here we are in Slicer. Let's go ahead and bring in our jaw piece. All right, let's select the model and blow it up to 250%. That looks pretty cool. I don't think this needs support on this run, so let's go ahead and run this without support. But let's go ahead and check out my print settings. For this particular model, we're going to run at a 0.2 layer height with a 0.28 first layer, 3 perimeters, 4 top and bottom layers. My infill for this will be 25%. I'm going to run a brim on this just to make sure it sticks to the bed, but as usual, my skirt is 4 loops, 12 millimeters from the object to give a little bit more room for the brim, at 1 millimeter skirt height. We're not going to run any support material on this because I'm pretty confident the gMax 1.5 XT Plus can print this perfectly. My filament settings, again, I'm running a little bit hot on my PLA. I do have some issues to work out, but I think this will be okay for this print. Okay, so let's go ahead and export the G code for this and we'll move on to the skull piece. All right, so here's the skull model. Let's go ahead and blow this one up also 250%. Wow, that's pretty big. This thing is going to be so awesome. We'll put both of these files up on the SD card so we don't have to come back over here to Slicer and do this again. We saw my print settings from earlier and they're the same. My layer height is the same as well as my perimeters and top and solid layers. I'm still going to do a 25% infill. We're going to do the same size skirt and brim just to make sure the model stays down on the print bed. And of course, we're not going to run support material because I believe the gMax can print this just fine. So let's go ahead and export the G code and we'll put the skull and jaw piece on the SD card and head over to the gMax 1.5 XT Plus and get this printing. Okay, so we have the G code loaded up for the jaw piece, blown up to 250%. Let's go ahead and load up our Shaxon PLA and get this print going. I'll set up a time-lapse camera and I'll see you guys on the other side. Okay, so the jaw piece is done and we had some problems. This happens sometimes. You get a tangle in the filament and you'll get what's called a layer shift. Basically what happens is the filament pulls back on the extruder head and misaligns everything, causing the belt to skip. This also could have been caused by too much heat on the plastic. As you can see, the bottom here is really rough. I wasn't here to watch it. This print took a little over 7.5 hours. I just let it print. And it looks like we had some overhang issues here where it got a little bit too hot and started to ball up, and that may have caused a bump. So let's do this. Let's go ahead and head back over to Slicer and add some support to this, and I'm going to babysit this print and make sure it comes out right. Okay, so we're back over here in Slicer. Let's go ahead and go to the print settings and add our support material. Now I'm not going to do a preview on this because I really want to get it printing. I believe the support material will end up right underneath the top of the jawbone. So I think it'll be fine. Let's go ahead and export the G-code and head back over to the printer. Okay, so I have the SD card loaded up with the new G-code. This includes support material, and I'm going to babysit this print and make sure it comes out okay. There's one tool in our arsenal that will help us out, and that is the trusty scraper. I'll be reaching in frequently to make sure my overhangs don't curl up, so you'll probably see my hand in the time-lapse camera. Speaking of which, let's set up that time-lapse camera and I'll see you guys on the other side. Okay, so the print is done, and this one turned out much better because I kind of babysat this one during the print. What I had to do was reach in frequently and push down my overhangs. I'm having some trouble with my printer. Basically what's happening is I'm getting a lot of extruder skipping. My solution lately has been to turn up the heat so there's a little less backflow. What I really think the problem is the flow rate, and I need to make some adjustments and do some more testing. But I'll do that later and I'll get this thing dialed in eventually. But for now, we have a really good jaw print. This turned out awesome. I'll put some close-ups in of this good print at the end like I normally do. But this turned out great. His teeth are actually pretty sharp. It doesn't really need a whole lot of cleanup. I think it's going to be okay this way. So now that we've got the jaw piece printed, let's go ahead and print out the skull. I've got the G-code loaded up on the SD card already. Let's go ahead and fire the printer back up again and get this printing. I didn't set up any support material on the skull, but I am going to babysit it for a little while, so you'll probably see me reaching in every once in a while during that time lapse. And speaking of which, let's go ahead and set up that time-lapse camera, and I'll see you guys on the other side. Okay, so the top of the T-Rex skull is complete. We did have a few more problems. I had a tangle in the filament which caused a little bit of a layer separation, but it didn't go all the way through the model. I'll show some close-ups in the end, as I always do. And we did have some more cooling issues. I think I'm running a little bit too hot on my plastic. But we'll solve those issues as we go, and we'll get this ironed out. Other than that, I think it looks awesome. The teeth are really cool. It's a really cool little model, and I can't wait to print the whole thing. But first, let's go ahead and fit in the lower jaw piece and make sure these guys fit together really well. We had a little bit of shrinkage on the lower jaw, and it doesn't quite snap together, but it does fit together nicely. And remember, we're blowing this up 250%, so this model is going to be over 1,500 millimeters long. I believe that's longer than this table, so this will be a really huge model. So thank you for joining me here on the Weekend Print as we start the T-Rex project. I hope you'll come back for the other episodes, and of course, join me again on the very next episode of the Weekend Print. And as always, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, comment and like on those videos, and join me again on the very next episode of the Weekend Print, and stick around for the rest of the T-Rex project. This looks pretty cool. I can't wait to see this whole model printed. We're going to do a lot of finishing on this, so stay tuned.